Hey everybody, welcome to Hugging the Cactus and the Keep Going podcast. I'm Andy Signor. So happy to be back here every Tuesday. I drop a video here. If you got some topics you want me to handle or guests you want, please hit up the comments down below and let us know. Today's going to be an important one. The holidays are around. A lot of people dealing with own depressions and problems, and I wanted to bring in somebody to talk about a serious issue, which is good mental health, how to have good mental health, the importance of mental health. And I'm so happy to have Danny from Geekdom101 and the world of Geekdom, his Speakdoms, where he does a lot of these kind of conversations. Danny, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a topic I'm very passionate about and one that I hope reaches people, and I hope that they can get something from this holiday season and in the future as well.
Yeah, so you pitched this, and I thought absolutely, and we had a pre-conversation because I think it's important. We can start with like, what is mental health? Like, what does that even mean to people? But I have my own definition. But I want to what for you? What is mental health and like a good mental health?
Everyone has their own definition. I mean, the thing is, like, we're not necessarily talking about just people who have like a mental disorder. That's not what we're talking about right now. Mental health is more so like sort of an understanding, sort of like being, I guess, in a way, sort of like, it's hard to describe. We're talking about, that's a tough one because everyone has a different definition. But
what's your definition?
My definition of mental health is being able to comfortably live your life and being able to sort of live in peace with no matter what happens to you. It's sort of like, it's like an existential kind of thing of like sort of letting go of problems. Because one thing you have to accept right off the hop is that you're going to have a bad day. No matter how rich you are, no matter how pretty or handsome you are, no matter where you come from or how your family is, you're going to have bad days. The wealthy have bad days, maybe not as much as the poor people. Poor folks have bad days. And I think once you kind of accept that, you can figure out ways to kind of get around it. You know what I mean? And what I mean by mental health specifically for me, like on a personal note, is like we all have trauma. And one thing I've learned from going to therapy for the past 8 months or whatever is that trauma follows us around in life. Like if something happened to you when you were a kid, something serious or something not so serious, it can affect you into your adulthood and you might not even realize it. It could be something very subconscious. And I think mental health is figuring out what that is, attacking that problem and getting over it. And so many of us every day walk around in our lives behaving a certain way. It's called maladaptive tendencies, behaving in a way that's bad, pushing people away. And a lot of it is based on our own fears and trauma. And I've learned a lot about myself this year, and I think a lot of folks out there, if you can't afford a therapist, it's okay. There are other methods, but therapy is crucial. I actually think most people need therapy because life tends to punch you in the mouth a lot. And sometimes you need someone to kind of guide you through that. So
yeah, I mean, having someone that you can speak to about anything without any problems, and you're paying that person, is sort of so you are more confident to know that they're there for you. Because I think one thing I've talked about in these shows and elsewhere is just like the reliance I was on friends. Like when I hit my lowest period during my cancellation and everything, like I saw myself leaning on friends more, and it took the realization of they got their own issues. Like I can't keep relying on that. I gotta go and figure out what do I need. And I think that for me, for good mental health, I'm still working on it. I think everybody is, but
all are.
I've gotten to a place where it's like, all right, I need to work on me, and work on how can I deal with myself alone and without the reliance of somebody else, before I can be, help anybody else, like my family, my partner, my friends. Like if we aren't in our own good mental health, taking care of ourselves and finding a way to be positive in our own skin, etc., we're not going to be a resource or helpful or fun to be around with anybody else. And so for me, the good mental health is such an important thing to talk about because, yeah, especially this year with everyone locked down and not having in touch with everybody, I hope some people are able to find themselves, right, and learn how to be happy with themselves, because I think so many of us are relying on our relationships or our kids or our work that we lose focus of us. And you got to make time for yourself, and you got to make ways to keep yourself positive and moving and out, doing things to really make sure that you are your body, your mind are still working. I mean, one thing that I've noticed, and I got to get back onto it. So every time I have these talks, I'm glad we do, because it reminds me, Andy, you got to get back and do that. But it's like the therapy is one thing I couldn't afford it for a while. And so I stopped going for a little bit, but I did exercise. Like to me, doing exercise, just running, like
Endorphins, man.
going
They go
out
up.
in the outside in the sun and just getting outside and moving and making a point to get away from the screens or the phone and going outside and really just giving that energy up. I can tell you every time I do it, my day is better. Like when I start a day and I fit that time in, which sometimes it's hard to fit in with work and kids and everything you got, but when you can fit that time in for a half hour, even if you're lucky to get an hour in the morning to really just go out and work out, and you energize your body and your mind and be off the screens, which we stare at all friggin' day, Danny. It's insane. When you can do that, it is another version that can help people, I think. That's mine. For some people, maybe it's reading a book or, or cooking or, washing dishes. Like people can find those moments in solace, right? Where they're alone with their thoughts and themselves without having to do anything else. And I hope people maybe got a little too much of that this year, some people, but I think if we can get to terms of like, wow, that was good. I think we all need to remind ourselves, like, the lockdown was actually, I think, a really weird, forced thing of like, yo, look in the mirror and focus on you, in a weird way that I hope some people can see that in a positive. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And you actually hit the nail on the head when you said about yourself and loving yourself, because actually that is mental health. I think the issue with a lot of us as people is, and I've had this problem, I'm talking from experience, and I'm sure you have at some point, is that I feel like we don't really value ourselves. And I think the important thing that I've learned this year is to value yourself. And it's not about ego. It's not about being cocky. It's about sitting down saying, you know what? I offer something to the world. I have a skill or something, because everybody has one. Everyone's different, but you bring something to the world, whether it be even small things like donating money to a charity or helping an old lady take out her garbage, little things like that. You are offering something positive to the world and you value yourself. And I think sometimes when you go through things like breakups, divorces, or even fights with your friends, or when you're a content creator, you get a negative comment, people will be douchebags to you on the internet, and it can hurt sometimes. And the important thing you have to remember is to value yourself and remember that those people don't know you. They don't know anything about you, just talking trash. But if they do know you, if it's a personal thing, like a real life falling out, like for example, with me, earlier this year, I had a falling out with people who were very close to me. And it happened kind of a lot right at the beginning of the pandemic. And a lot of it had to do with my loneliness. And I had to tackle that in therapy. And I'll get into that more later if you want. But I pushed people away that I didn't mean to push away. And it really bothered me because I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing something wrong here. It's me. And it all goes back to valuing yourself, because trauma and bullying, which I dealt with a lot, and things like that are going to affect you. I was bullied when I was a kid because I was overweight. I didn't speak English because I'm an immigrant from Cuba. So in kindergarten, I don't speak a word of English. And I learned English in school. And again, I was overweight. I had bad eyesight, still have bad eyesight, lost a lot of weight, but still working on it. And you get bullied for that. And it becomes a thing where people are mean to you. And then now as an adult, you deal with it in the workplace, you deal with it online. People think that bullying is like a high school thing. No, if you work in corporate America, you're going to get bullied. You're going to have some prick. I don't know if we can curse on here, so I'm going to keep it PG. But you're going to have some prick do something to take advantage of you. And it's going to happen. And it's going to affect you. And the important thing is to always value who you are as a person. It's not about ego. And so for me, what I had to come to terms with, and this is what we can get into here, is when I went to therapy, I learned that I have a lot of insecurities, that I have a lot of, anxiety. Because that's the big one, is anxiety. Anxiety is a murderer of, anxiety causes depression. So a lot of folks out there watching this right now probably have a ton of anxiety, especially if you're in the internet sphere, if you're a nerd, if you're into movies like what we cover, or anime or whatever, you probably have this at some point, different levels. But what I learned was I have something called anxious attachment style, which is something that develops when you're a baby. Basically, the way it works is, real quick, I'll get into it for you. Between the ages of 0 and like 2.5, 3 years old, if your caregiver takes proper care of you and gives you attention the right way, you develop a secure attachment style. However, there's 3 other ones. There's which are the insecure ones. There's disorganized, which is very rare. 3% of the population have that. There's avoidant, and there's anxious. So if a baby's in a crib crying, right, and the parents ignore the baby, that's bad. That's really, really bad. If they're like 7 or 8 years old, it's not that bad. But between the age of 0 and 2.5, 3, it's bad, because what you're actually doing subconsciously is you're telling the baby that he can't depend on the parents to take care of him. Because unlike other animals in the animal kingdom, we as human beings cannot functionally survive on our own in the jungle. Like when we're born, we can't just go out there and just kill for food. Other animals can do it. We can't. We need our parents around till around roughly the age of about 16. That's when we can actually have the muscles and the puberty to go out there and actually hunt our own food. We're going back to like primal stuff, but it still applies to this day, right? So if your parents don't give you enough attention or give you the wrong attention, you could end up with one of this as well. Also, if you're abused, if you're sexually molested, all these things matter. A lot of women who are very promiscuous or ones that don't have sex, a lot of times that's because they experienced something like this when they were younger, which is why the reason why you and I even met is because I saw your video where you had the allegations going against you, and then you proved that you did not indeed do those things. Yep. You did flirt with fans, but you didn't violate a woman. And to me, if you're going to accuse somebody of violating you, that's like a criminal act, This is like, and to me, there's no excuse for that. That's like one of the worst things you can do is that, right? And then when I saw your story, I was like, damn, and I hit you up and I was like, I saw your video. I feel bad this happened to you. I wasn't a fanboy. I wasn't trying to get clout from you. I actually, which I know you probably have a ton of people who do that to you. I was genuinely like, yo, like this was fucked up. Sorry, I didn't mean to curse.
No,
but
yeah, it's good.
I'm just being honest with you. And I saw what happened to you. Yeah, you flirted with fans. I've done it. I've done it before. Like it just, you do it playfully, whatever. You have issues with your marital issues, that's separate. But you didn't violate that woman, right? And people don't understand that when a child is sexually
careful the words, careful the words.
Assaulted, abused, this is going to affect them they have to go to therapy sometimes for years. That didn't happen to me, but it did happen to a lot of friends of mine. But with me, what happened was my parents were not attentive to me. So I'm always looking for attention. I'm always needy. I become needy and clingy. And the problem is that for relationships and friendships, being needy and clingy is bad. Why am I needy and clingy? Because I didn't value myself. Once you learn to value yourself, you at that point have more self-confidence. I've always been a confident guy, but when I get to know somebody, right, especially relationships, I'm a very strong lover, which is why, like, every time I've ever had a breakup in my life, she's always come back. Now, whether or not
look at that flex.
I'm being honest with you.
Danny, I should change it. Danny, strong lover. Go ahead.
No,
I hear you. I'm just busting your balls.
No, I know, but it sounds like I am not doing this to put myself over, but every time I've had a breakup in my entire life, she has always come back. Now, whether or not I take her back is my choice, but at some point in the future, they realize, damn,
he was good to me.
Up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse again. I think we're having a conversation.
But they think you were good to them, like you weren't mean to them.
I'm also Latin, bro, and we're very good lovers, bro. There's also that, and I'm also a very creative guy when it comes to being romantic. I'm a sweet guy. Like this is not ego. I'm valuing myself. I know I'm a sweet guy, and so, and now in my life, I've got money. I've got a paid off house. Like at this point, the way I feel about myself is, if a woman rejects me, it's her loss. If somebody doesn't want to be my friend, it's their loss, because I'm actually working to better myself every day. And how many people don't do that because they're caught up with stress or whatever? So the point I'm trying to make to you, I'm sorry for rambling, it's just, it means a lot to me, is a lot of people have this attachment style. If you're adopted or if you're going from foster home to foster home, you're going to have these problems. And at some point you have to address them. And whether it be through, there's different kinds of therapy. For example, what I did something called cognitive behavioral therapy. That was the first thing I did, where basically you have to learn how to control your behavior. Because the thing about me that I don't know if we talked about this, you and I, but I was homeless 10 years ago. I lost everything. And now I have a paid off house. Now, the thing about that is I covet Geekdom 101 and World of Geekdom a lot. Like, I care about my business a lot, bro. So when I have some dick, I'm trying not to curse, man, but when I have some prick trying to insult my content or insult my channel, for many years, I would have Twitter wars. Before you and I knew each other, dude, I would spend 7 or 8 hours on Twitter fighting with trolls. I don't do that anymore, but I would. And I would just be skewering these freaking virgins, bro, because I'm very vociferous when it comes to roasting. But then I realized, why am I spending 7 or 8 hours with these guys when I should be making content, when I should be with my loved ones, when I should be? So it kind of hit me like, man, I'm wasting so much time engaging with these virgins that have nothing better to do. And I realized why. Because Geekdom 101 and World of Geekdom, I've never been this successful for in my entire life. Even though I was an engineer, I never made so much money before or had this much attention. And I care about it a lot, which I'm sure you can relate to as well. Every time you talk about how you should have got honest trailers on your channel, I know how you can relate to that. So I take it personal. People say, oh, separate Geekdom from Danny. But it's very hard to do that because Geekdom represents me not being homeless anymore. And when I was homeless 10 years ago, that also caused trauma. So what I'm trying to tell people is that your trauma will follow you.
Yep.
And you have to fight it, and you have to learn techniques or go to therapy or whatever, meditate, whatever, religion. There's a million different ways to fix it. But sometimes you have to, because if not, you might end up destroying your relationships and your friendships. You might end up hurting somebody else because you're being too clingy or you're being too defensive. Because when you have anxiety, what happens is you become very self-absorbed. And with the pandemic and what we've dealt with this year, being self-absorbed on top of being lonely is a very dangerous combination. And you end up losing control of who you are and being mean to those who might not understand your plight instead of communicating with them. And then with CBT, I learned, okay, before you say something, think about it. Like, sit down and think about what you're going to say. So now if a troll comes after me, I just laugh, I make fun of him, or I ignore him because it doesn't bother me anymore. Like, I'm so over that right now. And I want people out there who deal with this to understand that you can get better. Like, it's real. Like, one of the things that irritates me is when people say that, oh, depression is not real, mental health is not real. It's very real. We have scientific proof of this. Dopamine, serotonin, all these different chemicals in our brains. This is all proven to be real. I'm sorry, I don't mean to ramble so long, man. I know you're waiting to say something.
No, you're the guest. I want to hear your thoughts, and I think it's interesting insight. People will want to hear it. But I did want to ask you, like, aside from the therapy, like, what else do you feel like you have done to help keep yourself on track? Because I can relate completely to the channel being sort of takes your life. It's like a weird problem where, like, the brand Geekdom for you, Popcorn Planet now for me, it was Honest Trailers before, but like the brand becomes you, right? And it's like, you need to be online to promote the said brand, and you got to defend the brand because the brand is me and my livelihood and puts food on my kid's table. And I've totally been to the place where I'm getting absorbed in stupid fan back and forth or trollery when it's like, dude, put it down, focus on the content or the family instead of wasting time with energy. But it's a fine line, because sometimes you're like, well, no, but I don't want this to get out as the definitive, definition of the channel. But it took some time for me to realize, dude, this is one dude on Twitter. Like, who cares? Like, move on and ignore.
Loser,
hit the block, hit the mute. Just like, don't engage with them anymore. And I've noticed now that I've done that more often, I've seen my channel actually is starting to work because I've been able to put the energy into the content or with my family, which makes me happier. And I don't have to worry about, like, oh, the Zack Snyder fans don't like good, bye, get out of my life. Like, I don't. If you have an issue, you're wasting your time, on a channel and just hating. We have the ability, thankfully, to mute or hide from channel or mute from feed. And so I think those are tools that I don't think enough people take advantage of, that you should. If you don't like someone's take, or they're bothering you, or they're interfering with your own mental health, remove them, right? It's a very easy process that I don't think people do. Is that something you do? What are some other things you've noticed to sort of help yourself avoid falling down that road again, to keep yourself healthier in a better spot?
I will tell you, but I want to say something to what you said real quick. The thing that's interesting about this conversation is that those people that come after us, and when I say us, when I'm talking about like you and I don't mean like, I mean creators, like the whole spectrum, right? Is sometimes most of us don't look for trouble. Now, sometimes if you have an opinion, you have somebody, it depends on the person and what the content is. In your situation, I know you've dealt with problems with your ex coworkers, and I've dealt with snakes in my fandom as well. People who use me and then they don't really care about me. The truth is that, and this is the sad truth, and this is something I've come to realize this year, internet friends, very few of them are actual real friends. And I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to say it, but it's just true. Like, do they really have your back? Will they be there for you at 3 a.m. when you're in tears because your girlfriend left you, or you found out your wife cheated on you, or whatever? Your stocks plummeted, whatever the problem. Well, you got fired from your job. Will they be there for you? And most of the time they won't. And it's not their fault. Sometimes they're too busy. They have their own lives. But what I want to address is the fact that the people that come after us, that are just trolls, they have their own mental problems a lot of times. And not to say that they have, they're on the spectrum, even though some of them are. That's not what I'm saying. But people come after me all the time, right? And you as well, I'm sure. But these people, right, a lot of them project onto us. A lot of them, there's a lot of envy. And when I say envy, people tend to, are you saying they're all jealous of you? No. Jealousy and envy are two different things. I'll give you an example. Envy is if you say something like, I don't understand why PewDiePie's so big. I mean, he has no talent. That's envy, because you aren't able to recognize why he has a following. You think he has no talent. That's ego driven, number one. And number two, if you'll snap out of your fucking ego, sorry for cursing again. It's just, I'm in this conversation.
No, you're at this point. It's okay.
I apologize, but are you going to edit this?
No, it's fine. You could curse near the end of the video. They don't let you, as long as you don't curse in the first minute. But keep going on your train of thought.
I'm sorry. It's just,
don't apologize. You got. Yeah. Go back to the PewDiePie.
You know how
example.
I get sometimes.
It's all good.
I have a temper, but you have to recognize that he's doing something right. There's people on YouTube who I can't stand, who I cannot stand, but I still recognize that they have to be doing something right and serving their audience something, whatever that may be. It could be, I don't know, it could be hate for all we know, which a lot of channels are built on hate. Fine. But that envy is to look at somebody and try to take them down and bring them down to your level because you are unsatisfied in life. Because the truth is, people who are genuinely happy in life, people who have good jobs, they have good relationships, good friendships, they're busy, they have kids, they're always busy, they're always doing something fulfilling or something important. They don't have time to waste on the computer talking shit. You don't have time to waste doing that. So whenever I look at one of these guys who's writing these posts about how Geekdom101 has a big ego, or Geekdom101 lied about Dragon Ball Super, which is one of my favorites, because Andy, basically what happened was I got a report of a show coming back and the show got postponed, and that got twisted into I lied. I'm a liar. I lied for views. I lied for clicks. And that pisses me off big time. But do you want to know why that pisses me off? I'm going to tell you. From day one in this fandom, I have tried to be the most credible guy. I have not done clickbait. I've tried to be super credible with my information. And if I get something wrong, I'm going to tell you, okay, I was wrong. This is the truth. Unlike Grace Randolph, just saying, who told us all that Wonder Woman 84 was a Flash movie. Boy, that was. Anyways, I have nothing against her, but when you're wrong, you're wrong.
But okay? you try to keep the credibility real. I got you. Okay, keep going.
Right, and but it gets even deeper than that, bro. The reason why I hate being called a liar is because my parents lied to me when I was a kid multiple times about big things. My mom and dad, this is where I'm going to get deep with you, bro. So my mom and dad both died of smoking-related deaths. My mom died of cancer. My dad died of emphysema, COPD. My life, I hated smoking. My brother, 2 years ago, died of a heart attack because of smoking. Smoking has taken my 3 closest relatives. You have to understand, I came here from Cuba. It was me, my brother, my mom, my dad, and my aunt on a boat, like in Scarface. That's how we came over here. They're all dead. I'm the last one left. Literally the last one left from who came over from the boat. My aunt died of diabetes. She also smoked, but that wasn't what killed her. She didn't control her sugar level. She was old. My mom, dad, and brother all died from smoking. I hate smoking. I will always hate smoking. It took the people who I care about the most from me. But my mom and dad would be smoking cigarettes, hiding it from me. I would see them smoking, and I'd say, "You're smoking." And they would say, "No, I'm not." When they literally have it in their hands. They treated me like a freaking child until I grew up and moved out. My dad treated me like a little kid until I moved out and became a man. Then when we reconciled, he respected me. Happened to a lot of people. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I hate being called a liar because my parents lied to me. It all goes back to trauma. Everything that we go through now is stuff that we went through as kids that it all comes back to haunt you. That's why I was bringing up the sexual stuff earlier, because if a woman gets, for example,
careful with the words, though. Yeah.
Huh?
Careful with those words. They actually will ding us more than the F words.
Which word? The R word?
Yes.
No, I'm not going to say it. That's why I said sexual.
Or even just the SA, DA. Just, we know what you're talking about. But a woman who goes through that, yeah. I
have a friend of mine. I'm not going to say who. She's a girl. And we're friends. We're not anything more than friends. And she tells me that when she's giving a guy oral pleasure, she does not like it when he puts his hand on her head. She'll freak out. Why? Because when she was younger, she had a guy forcefully do that to her. And so she's so traumatized to where if a guy even gently puts his hand on her head while she's committing the deed, she will freak out and get mad and like curse at him. There's certain women that have this. Like some women don't have to be choked. There's all, some women do, there's all kinds of different like examples of this, right? I'm using this as an example. So extreme example, but it's an example. So for us, if we get bullied for being fat, people calling you fat when you get older is going to hurt you unless you get over it. Now, I lost the weight, so I don't care anymore. And I don't care if somebody calls me fat because my wallet's pretty damn fat right now. That's what's fat on me, bro, is my wallet. You know what I'm talking about? So you beat them with that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that, they have issues too. But back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm off topic. My therapist taught me a really cool trick. And a lot of this is CBD. When someone
Cognitive behavior therapy, just so people understand what is CBD. Go ahead, yeah.
CBT, yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy, yeah. Because what CBT actually is you control your actions by using mindfulness, by thinking. So, for example, if you're out at a bar and some guy's drunk and he starts calling you a bunch of names, the testosterone and your defense mechanism is going to kick in. You're going to want to go fight him. But if he's got 3 or 4 friends, you got to sit there and think about it and say, okay, what's my best thing to move? Should I let my emotions take over or should I dip? You should just dip. Because if you fight him and you get jumped, you might get arrested, you might get hurt. And if you get hurt, you might not go to work today, so you can't make money. There's all kinds of, you have to think about these things. And I see you have it on the screen right there. So for me, if somebody's coming after me, one of the tricks that my therapist taught me was pretend that they're a small animal. Pretend that the person coming after you is and I actually have a sticky note right here that says trolls are animals. You probably can't see it there, but that's right there on my monitor.
Yep.
Right there, brother, just to prove it. So if somebody's coming after me and they're being a prick for no reason, in my eyes, I translate that as me, like a little doggy or a little roach. It's like, dude, you're a freaking roach. I had a guy the other day tell me, you're going to love this one, Andy. I had a guy come after me yesterday or 2 days ago, right? About whatever. I lied about Super, which is so pedantic and stupid. It was last year, whatever. And I told the guy, I go, you want to know something, bro? Geekdom101 is $1 million. The business is worth $1 million. And then he comes back to me and he goes, oh, you're bragging about your money. That's all you have. And I'm like, buddy, in about 5 years, I'll have enough money to where I don't have to work for anybody ever again for the rest of my life. You're going to be working at a corporate job, sucking dick for a promotion, eating fucking shit while I'm over here fucking taking vacations to Miami on the beach. I'm going to have a better life than you, bro. And I told him that. I said, I'm going to have a better life than you. Like you're, because you don't have the balls. You don't have the stones to do what I did, which is start a business, work your ass off like a freaking alpha would do, and get to where you need to be and be creative. And I didn't tell them all of this, but I'm saying that's how I perceive these people. So what she told me was just pretend they're animals, which, because if they're going to sit there and dehumanize us.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
No, because here's what they do. People on the internet dehumanize us. When they look at, for example, in your situation, people try to dehumanize you as this monster. Like you're not Andy Signor, the person, you're Andy Signor, the creep, whatever names they have for you, right? Not understanding that. And this really, when you were on my podcast, this actually resonated with me. When you told me that you couldn't even get a job because if somebody Googles your name, they're going to find crap about you. And the fact that your children might have to deal with that when they get older, that's really bad. Like, I don't mean to remind you of this to bother you. I hope I'm not bothering you by reminding you of this. But it's really bad. Like, that's something that would screw with my head forever, right? And it's one of those things where, like, people don't realize that when they say these things about you, this has an effect. Now, you've been able to...
Well, can I echo on that, because you brought that up, but it's like, yeah, the struggle, and I think to try and wrap, because I want to wrap this portion up, but I'd love to continue a second portion with you. But what I was going to say was, in that instance, it's a good one to bring up, because it's like I've had to come to terms with that, right? I have to come to how do you deal with that, right? How do you it's tough, and I lost my train of thought. I was going, but yes, dealing with what the people think triggers me to go sort of have to correct them, right? And then it's dealing with the trolls of like, no, I didn't do that. You need to that's sort of my trigger point, I've realized, of like correcting the truth. Like the truth is now something important to me because I wasn't honest in my life, and now I am, and so I want to be, like, no, it's not who I am, and it's hard because I'm living this like justification of like, well, why should anyone believe me, Danny? Because it's like I wasn't even honest to my wife and my family, right, and to my fans. Like clearly I was hiding a lot. So it's like it's a turmoil I have, but the way you have to just press forward, right? You have to figure out a way to press forward. You have to focus on what you can do. And so the ways I've sort of, it's still something I work on constantly, but the ways I get through it are, just work with what you can do, right? Build what you can build. Go outside. Spend the times with the people who do care about you and don't care about that past. You can't keep pounding on the negatives. You got to keep the positive, mental health going. And because if you sit there online only reading the negative or Googling the past or trying to adjust it, you realize you're going to sink into a spiral. And the reality I've learned is most people don't care anymore about my story. Like they just don't. Like it's something that is so crucial and brutal to me because I lived it, right? And it felt like the end. But the other thing that helped me move forward was just realizing there actually were people who were worse off than, even as bad as my situation was, and it was bad. There are people that were worse off that have lost their loved ones and or died or there's
terminal illness.
Yeah, exactly. There is worse in the world, and you quickly realize everybody's going through something, and it's part of the reason why some of these people are trolling us is because they have their own problems, and their mental health isn't as strong, and they're just taking it out on us because it makes them feel better for that short little endorphin rush, right? Is what the reality is. So this conversation is important, and I'm just trying to wrap this portion up, but I'd love to keep talking because I have another topic I want to talk about you with. But it's important to sort of reiterate what you're saying of like sharing your story. I'm grateful you've shared it because, yeah, like the fact that you were strong enough to realize and go through the therapy and use whether it's calling the trolls the animals, I think that's great because it works for you, right? And it's a point of you're trying to redirect and not keep distracting yourself with the attention you give them by reminding yourself like no, they're not actually an important part of my life, right? They're not someone I need to engage with.
Well, I want to step in for just a moment because I agree with you about changing topics, but I want to say this about what you just said. What I was going to tell you is that they view you as Andy Signor the Crib, but they don't know that you're actually a man who has to, when the camera comes off, sometimes you're going to have really bad days. And sometimes you might be having a bad day. You might turn on your Twitter and see one prick say something bad about you, and it's going to make your day worse. They don't understand that. Like, people don't understand that. Like, people are human beings. PewDiePie, Markiplier, everyone on YouTube, they go through the same BS that we go through. And what I wanted to add to what you said was the animals thing is a good idea, but really it all comes down to valuing yourself, because in your case, the Andy Signor of 2020 is not the same one from 2018 or 2016. In
Facts,
fact,
yep.
that Andy's dead. He doesn't even exist anymore.
No, they killed that Andy for sure. that Andy is gone.
And you killed him. Well, you killed him because you could have gone back to that. Because I'll tell you this right now. I had a breakup happen to me years ago, and I remember she came back like a year later, and I remember telling her, I'm like, she's like, I still love you. And I said,
which is a good wraparound because he is a good lover. Keep going.
No, right. But here's where it gets interesting, right? She said, I still love you. And I said, you can't. She goes, why? I go, because you don't know me. What do you mean? Because the person who you loved was me last year or 2 years ago. I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you might not love me anymore because I have different tolerances. And that's a good way to look at it. Like, the person who I was a year ago is definitely not me now. And if someone has a problem with that, then screw them, because people will hold on to the past too much. And it's like, people make mistakes. And unless you actually commit a crime, like the R word or the P word, PEDO word or something like that, I'm trying to keep you from getting flagged. That is bad. Like, cancel culture, I think, is...
That's not cancel culture, right? Calling that stuff as criminal behavior is different than just
but calling
PR
somebody
police
out because of who they voted for or making a joke on social media is so freaking stupid and so immature. And we got people in their 30s and 40s doing this, bro. You got Chuck Wendig doing this nonsense.
Yeah, look, society has become more soft, and it's like we are rewarding.
Absolutely, the pussification of America.
It's just a problem where it's like, I understand we want to be all loving and kumbaya and forgiving, but it's like Cobra Kai. He that whole like when he's kicking the kids in, because you got to toughen up a bit, and it's like I think the show is showing he goes too far and everything. But my point is, like, yeah, as a culture, I think it's going to actually hurt us in the long run.
Look, if you ever bring me back on here, I want to talk about the pussification of America, because that's a topic that I feel very strongly about. That we now have scientific psychological research proving that people are worse now than they were back in the day as far as depression goes, suicide rates. We have a lot of data now in the past 10 years about this. I was
looking for a book. I don't have it, but the coddling of the American youth. I forget where.
You have that book?
Yeah. I was gonna say
that's what I was gonna bring up.
He was on Joe Rogan, and I got the book. It's an incredible book. If you
Jonathan
guys
Haidt.
Yes, if
he's
you have
my favorite psychologist.
It's coddling of the American mind. Here, I'll put it up for people to know. But it's
that book
definitely it is a game changer of just sort of helping to prioritize and where it came from. How good intentions and bad ideas got us a generation for failure.
I've been saying this for years, and now we have an actual book that discusses it in detail. I think that book is from like 3 years ago also, but it's correct.
But yeah, it's if you want to, the topic we're dealing upon, which we can talk about it, absolutely. Look, I try to keep these tight just so people will do it, but let's keep talking. You're back. Welcome back. Maybe we'll do another one. Thank you for doing this. Lots more to talk about with Danny. I want you back. We'll talk more. For those of you who want to know where to find him, go support Geekdom101 as his main channel. For if you like Dragon Ball stuff. If you want to see more conversations like this, you can go over to his second channel, World of Geekdom. He's growing, and he has a wonderful series over there called Speakdom, where he talks about sort of issues like this, what's on his mind. You can find that playlist there.
I try to help people out, with
good
problems
for you.
and give them advice on life.
You also have the podcast, which I did an episode of on the Geekdom101 podcast over there. Check that out.
That would be at geekdom101.libsyn.com. Yeah, right. It's on break right now, but it'll be back next year.
But you can go check out our talk there, as well as some other deep conversations and things he has there, fun conversations. Lots of places you can find Danny. Danny, thanks for being here. Come back. Let's keep this conversation going. Guys, I appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for more here on Hugging the Cactus. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. This is my other channel, but just it works the same over here. Hit that and make sure you hit the all alerts. Sometimes it desubscribes you. Hit the like button. All that stuff will help engage me here. You can also become a member of our Patreon for Hugging the Cactus to help fund this initiative. Appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for more.